And I'm seeing a lot.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm seeing people's feedback about being energetic and enjoying all the uniqueness and the brilliance. So I hope to bring some island charm tonight. And we're going to talk about journey into clarity. And I wanted to talk about clarity given the last 18 months that we've been through globally. Everybody's been through almost the same thing. And it seems like we're now coming out and life is changing and life has changed. So I want to give some of the tools that I've used to journey from confusion to clarity, and confusion meaning living in this space of a bit of a fog, living in this space of not knowing what to do next, and just living in a space of now what? So I'm gonna jump right in and let you know what tools that I've used. A lot of times the confusion just comes from having so much things thrown at us and not knowing who we are and not taking the time to really sit with ourselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now. So I'm hoping that everybody can see this. Awesome. So we're on this 21-minute journey to clarity. So let's just start. I want to find out if you can just put in the chat quickly when the word clarity comes to mind. What comes to mind when you hear the word clarity? You can just quickly put that in the chat. But for me, clarity is really a case of being free, calm. I'm seeing the same things in the chat here. Christopher is talking about calm, clean. What does clarity mean to you? And I had to sit down and think about, how do I move from a space of not knowing or thinking I don't know? Or how do I move from this space of this fog and seeing clearly and being at peace? And that's really what clarity means to me. It really is a case of being at peace, being free. And I hope that just give me 1 second, it's right. So clarity for me is peace and a knowing, and that's an inner knowing. When you do something with a clear intent, you feel at peace. There's no more confusion. There is, even if there is doubt and even if there's uncertainty, you still feel a sense of peace. Clarity to me is about knowing what you have to do next, even though you don't know, if that makes sense. Is really that calm that Christopher mentioned, that calm in knowing that the next step that I take, that it's going to be okay no matter what. So what does clarity allow us to do? When you're clear, you can make better choices and make more conscious decisions. And those decisions doesn't mean that you would know everything. It really comes from a space of that knowing. And the consciousness that we're talking about here is really just that calm and peace. Something is in front of you, you know, okay, I may have this feeling of doubt, but I will still go through with it knowing that it's okay. Clarity allows us to go through life without giving in to the fear. And it allows us to communicate clearly with the divine. Following our intuition, clarity allows that, because a lot of times when we're clear, things may not make sense to other people, but it's so clear to us, and other people are thinking, well, she must be crazy or he must be crazy. but you know that you're making a conscious decision, even though you're feeling afraid, you're still doing it because you have communicated with your divine self and you have that knowing. And a lot of times intuition is not logical. So when you're clear, it allows you to make those decisions, even if you feel in fear, even if you know that to others, it doesn't make any sense, but you're ready to make that decision. So how do we get to the point of clarity? And what I'm going to do in the time that I have is to just share with you some of the tools that I've used. And I think for me, when the pandemic hit, my job was to travel, or even before the pandemic, my job involved a lot of travel to places like Uganda, Nigeria, Kenya, etc., Latin America, where I would work with women who would be rebuilding their communities. And we would use the entrepreneurial tools to do that. But COVID came, our country became locked down, and everything changed for me because my job really involved working with women throughout the world. So I was confused. I had to shift how I do things, and I had to really find the tools to come back to a point of being clear about what my purpose is. And these are the tools that I'm going to share with you tonight. So the first one is the declutter. And that is really getting rid of items, not just physical items, but the trash in your mind. It really is getting rid of the things that no longer serve you. So taking the time to make where you stay, where you live, where you work, you take out those things that you no longer use, because sometimes that could be a blessing for someone else. Whereas when you hold on to it, you don't allow things to come in. So clarity, one of the tools that you would need to become clear is decluttering your physical space and decluttering your mind and decluttering the thoughts. And how do you declutter your mind? Meditation, prayer, journaling, grounding yourself in nature. Those are some of the things you would use to declutter your mind. I mean, decluttering your physical space, for some people, it's easier than others because you might not have worn a dress or a trousers since 1956, but you're holding on to it because there's some memory attached. But how do you make space for something new to come in? And one of the big tools on the journey to clarity is decluttering your mind, your surroundings, and your physical space. It brings in, I don't know if any of you have had the feeling of when you're in a clean space that you declutter, you feel light. It brings a sort of peace and tranquility from before. When you write in a journal and you just clean out your brain, when you meditate, you're allowed to feel a sense of peace. You allow yourself to feel a sense of peace. So we talked about the ways you can declutter your mind: meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, grounding. On mornings, what I do after I run, I take my shoes off, I find some grass and I walk in the grass, provided there's no dogs coming before me. But, it brings me back to a place of clarity. So what are some of the other tools? Keeping a journal. One of the things that I would strongly recommend is writing down what you want to create, how you want to feel, and how you want to live. A lot of times we don't write it down because we're afraid to see it on paper. Because once we put it on paper, it becomes real. And almost tell ourselves that we have to hold ourselves accountable when we write it down. But once you write it down and you give it life and you hold yourself accountable, you're able to take the steps towards it. And then it comes out of your mind and it's on paper. So keep a journal, write down what you want to create, the life you want to create. How do you want to feel? Do I want to feel joy? Do I want to feel abundant? Do I want to feel having fun? Do I want to feel connected? Write it down, keep a journal, get the thoughts out of your head. And once you see it on paper, what you want to create, how you want to live, how you want to feel, you're able to own it. And it clears your mind and it gives you a pathway. And if anybody wants to jump in, feel free. Quiet time, silence and stillness. Silence is the portal in which we can access clarity. I mean, have you ever heard the sunrise or the moon come out? And those are two of the most powerful things that you know. Silence, even if you can't commit to taking an hour a day, have some silence, even if you're in the bathroom. I call it the temple of the bathroom. You know, close the door and take 5 minutes and be still. And what happens in that quiet time and in that silence and in that stillness, you can access your intuition, because your intuition is a whisper, as you would probably know. It will not shout at you. So spend some time in quiet, silence, in stillness, because stillness is where you can access clarity. You can envision and see what is happening in that silence. And you don't need much. 5 minutes a day, if you do that as a habit, it becomes easier and easier. I mean, there are a lot of places you see where you go on silent retreat and you wonder, well, why? Why would you not want to talk or hear music or different ways of communicating? But when you realize how powerful and important silence is, you will find the time. It is an important tool on the journey to clarity. Listening to your intuition. And this is how spirit speaks to us. We're doing this with Guidely, and spirit is one of our guides. How do you access your intuition? We just spoke about stillness. This is how we access our intuition. And our intuition is never judging us. How do we know it's our intuition? It speaks in love. It never judges us. It may be illogical. It may be sound crazy as ever, but it guides you. And on the journey to clarity, you must have a relationship with your intuition. And the only way to have a relationship with your intuition is to spend time in stillness, to spend time in silence, and to listen to that voice. Take action. All of these things will not work in your life if you don't take action. And part of taking action is taking risk. And a lot of times people look at others and say, oh my God, you're so courageous and you're so brave and you're so strong. And that's because they are clued in and they have a relationship with their intuition. So when your intuition is guiding you, you'll always be okay. But you have to take action. I mean, even at the end of this 21 minutes, and Shannon and Amir, you'll keep me on time, please. Even at the end of this, having all these tools, if you do nothing with it, then nothing will change. So you have to take action, and taking action can start small. For example, with the decluttering, you might just go into your kitchen and get rid of the old things that you no longer use, or go into your closet. You may, from tomorrow, find an old notebook or go to the stationery store, write it down. You know, you have to take action and you have to take risk in order to be clear and live the life that you want to live. And the last one is to be grateful. Gratitude is, to me, the great multiplier. And once we are in tune with our intuition, once we spend time in nature, we realize that the little things count, and we give thanks for even just waking up in the morning. We give thanks for our family and our friends. Once we are able to tap into that well of gratitude, clarity comes, because we're not outside looking for things that we don't have. We look at what we have and we give thanks for it. And that kind of sparks us to do more and to be more and to give more. So those are the tools that I use on my journey to clarity. And at the end of it, that clarity may not make sense to anyone else, but once you know you're divinely guided, you have tapped into your intuition, you spend the time in stillness, then it really shouldn't matter to anyone else whether or not it makes sense to them. So what I want to do now is I just want to do a quick exercise on the journey, using these tools on the journey to clarity. If anybody has any questions before I start the exercise. Right, so I'm gonna. Okay, so there's an exercise that I've used. So you're making a list of the areas that you want to become clearer on. So whether it's in your physical appearance, your finances, your family life, your careers, you make that list. And when making that list, you have to be kind to yourself. You can't scold yourself and say, oh, I haven't done enough, I'm not enough, I should be doing this. It's just you making a list of the areas in which you want clarity or you want your life to improve. So I've chosen finance. That's the area I want to feel clearer on, I want to improve on. So on the journey to clarity, you have to be honest. You have to own and face up to where you are. You have to be accepting of where you are. And that's why gratitude is so important, because once you are honest and you accept where you are, you give thanks for it, because ultimately where you are is where you're supposed to be. It's a lesson. It's teaching you something. So finance, at the moment I am, and you write a statement that describes your current situation. Right now, at the moment, I'm in debt of $4K on my credit card. And no judgment, that it is what it is. This is the area I want to be clear on. This is the area I want to improve. Not, oh, I'm in debt and I'm wasting money, or these credit card companies are ripping me off. You really just write this statement. At the moment, I am or I feel. So it could be I feel frustrated or confused because I'm in debt to a total of $4K. So what would you like to change based on where you are now? What would you like to change? And you're writing a statement based on what you would want to accomplish. So the example is, I would like to clear off all the credit card debt owed. No judgment, no heat. Really, this is what I want to do. And once you practice the tools, I mean, I would suggest you do a short meditation before you do this exercise so that you clear your thoughts out. So I would like to clear off this debt, and you add no judgment and no heat onto that. What do you believe about money and finance? What is your money story? What have you heard? And a lot of times that contributes to your confusion, which is why it's important for you to clear out your brain, declutter, because you may be holding on to beliefs in that area which does not serve you anymore, which you heard as a child. You know, my parents used to tell me that there's no money in the cassava patch in the backyard. And I would always want to know, what does that mean? And so to me, that always indicated that we don't have enough. So I use that as my money story, and that contributed to me making some decisions. But now, as we journey towards clarity, as we bring our values onto paper and we write it down, we realize that it doesn't serve us anymore. And yet again, you write it down without judgment and being kind to yourself. So I believe that credit card companies are unfair. If you believe that, then that will filter in and drive your decisions. And you may have resistance to paying them because you think they're unfair. And by you not paying them, you're kind of, giving life to the thought that I will do my part to make them fair, right? So what are your habits around finance? So I have a habit of buying food daily rather than maybe making a different choice. All right. So what are your habits that contribute to where you are? And your habits, it must be fact. You're not going to be making up a story. What do you do on a everyday or normal basis that contributes to where you are financially or physically or emotionally? This is what this exercise is saying. And running through each theme is no judgment of it. It's basically owning it and taking responsibility for it. So we have to balance it. It's not everything will be doom and gloom. So what are my talents? What are you good at? So I'm good at finding solutions. And once you remind yourself of what you're good at, then you give yourself a boost. It's always important to celebrate the little wins that you have and to be grateful for the things that you're good at that you can take and use to find clarity or to make where you are better. So if I'm good at finding solutions, then I know I could find a solution to the situation where I'm at the moment. And from that, you have this foundation to transform your beliefs, your thought patterns, and you can use affirmations that describe something positive and encouraging. So really just flipping the thoughts that you have. And in this case, money is a great tool that can be used in many ways to create positive outcomes. So you have to take the time to sit down, the quiet time, and look at your thought patterns, change them into something positive, optimistic, and encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's it. I think I made it right on time.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I don't think we fully appreciate the pressure that we're putting you guides through when we say 21 minutes. So thank you all for doing your best to fit within our time.
Yeah. And I know that you wanted to share workbook and some other
Yes.
things that we're going to share with the group here after.
They will be in the portal, and I will drop a link to work with Akosua. Also here in the chat, which will also be in the portal where you can find all your content as always. And I think that about wraps it up for us today. Let's see. Link for Akosua's discovery session there in the chat for you all. Thank you. I really enjoyed the last steps with the action worksheets, and feel like there's many areas of my life that I'd like to look at through those steps. Very, very cool. So useful. Yep, great. Would love to hear one word how you're doing. I'm going to give a quick introduction for Neil, our guide tomorrow. And
So tomorrow is a longer session, right?
Right. Just to clarify for everyone, it's about 45 minutes tomorrow. We'll include some breakout rooms. Everyone's
Integration of week 2.
integration of
And
week 2.
intentions for week 3.
Right. And week 3 is our theme is, I believe it's going within. So we started with, I want to make sure I don't get them mixed up. We started with letting go. Week 2, we've been really nurturing ourselves. And week 3 is really about finding and creating that sanctuary within. So we'll start tomorrow with Komala co-facilitating with us.
Yeah. And then we have Anil Chadwani.
Neil Chandwani, who will be teaching us how to capture empowering beliefs and thought processes of the top achievers and install them in ourselves.
And Anil is a dear friend, an incredible guide, straight from Santa Monica, right next to you, Karen. Really, we're in for a treat. So thank you so much. This was very powerful, Akosua. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And
let's
all
get
the
off
best of the
mute.
rest.
Yep.
Yeah, best of the rest.
Looking forward to the next week as well.
Thank you for joining us. Everyone, thanks for coming tonight live.
Thank
See you
you.
tomorrow. Let's
Thank you.
Bye.
Great
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Dawn.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Namaste.